From chimpanzees, the HIV pandemic began. I encourage you to watch this video in its entirety.
From the beginning, scientists would look for the origins of the virus. It would take more than a decade of investigation to find out that it had evolved from a simian or chimpanzee virus somewhere in Central Africa.
In the central part of Africa, there are people who were descended from hunter-gatherer populations, and many of those populations still do a lot of hunting, particularly in these really remote areas. I believe that in the process of hunting, the hunters encountered primates, particularly chimpanzees, and perhaps other monkeys that carry simian viruses.
Hunting and butchering a chimpanzee would almost certainly involve blood-to-blood contact.
They encountered these viruses, particularly when they were preparing the meat, and they periodically would become infected. And this was probably happening in various places in Central Africa. It wasn't high frequency, but periodically, and often it would probably die out. The hunter might die, he might transmit it to one or two people, but there were a few places where it would still continue at this low level that we found in the villages.
At first, the human immune system would fight back the chimpanzee virus. But on each transmission, the virus replicated. It adapted and evolved. And eventually, one of those adaptations was successful.
There's no question that HIV came from chimpanzees. There are, in fact, now known several examples of cross-species transmission, as we call it, between chimpanzees and humans. It's just that one of those took off like none of the others.
George Shaw is a scientist who has studied the evolutionary origins of HIV.
There is a clear family tree of the family of viruses that we call retroviruses. And within that family are viruses that infect humans and monkeys and chimpanzees that are grouped in this subfamily that we call human or simian immunodeficiency viruses.
By genetically comparing the chimpanzee viruses and HIV, scientists were also able to determine how recently the simian virus had crossed the species barrier to humans.
Investigators who specialize in that area suspect, plus or minus a decade, that the transmission event leading to HIV happened sometime around the 1930s.
The scientist who discovered the animal source of the AIDS virus was Beatrice Hahn. She traced it back genetically to its origins in a particular species of chimpanzee.
It is not known what has to occur for a newly transmitted chimpanzee virus to then become an epidemically spreading pathogen. There are a number of speculations that people have been putting forward, which are quite reasonable and have to do with the basic biology of this virus as we understand it today. And those speculations are increased partner change. If this person who has the chimpanzee virus gets introduced into a population with sexual promiscuity.
What happened in Africa is the urbanization of Africa. So where instead of living in the bush, that one now, especially males, migrated to the urban centers for work. Now, the infected chimpanzee butcher comes into a larger city in Africa, now has sex with a woman who has sex with a lot of other people, and now the woman gets infected and thousands of other people get infected, and then it goes on and on and on. And this virus just searches out, and when there is an amplification system, it takes off.
During the time period when we think that this transmission might have occurred, there were medical campaigns in West Central Africa of pox virus vaccination that would go from arm to arm.
Using the same needle was an unwitting but very efficient system of transmitting the virus widely.
It would have to be something that explains a sudden spread. And the more the virus replicates, the more changes can occur, the more it adapts to whatever new environment it's confronted with.
A sample of frozen plasma showed that the first confirmed death from AIDS occurred in 1959 in the Congo. By the 1960s, people in Central African towns were dying of a mysterious disease.
It has become incontrovertible that the epidemic that we understand to be the most important pandemic affecting humankind of this past century arose as a consequence of a single transmission event from a single chimpanzee in West Central Africa to one human.
From December to today, I've been doing a deep dive on HIV and AIDS. And although this video traces the origins of HIV to chimpanzees in Africa, it does not discuss how scientists went into Africa and used chimpanzee tissue to create a vaccine for polio, and by doing so, they may have mistakenly introduced the human population to HIV. So, if you would like more information on how one of the greatest medical breakthroughs of the 20th century may have come with unintended and devastating consequences, check out the link in the description section. And yeah, be sure to hit the like button, subscribe, leave a comment, and share. CAC, I'm closing a chapter on HIV and AIDS. I'm out.